Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Warsaw, Poland for the Wargaming.net League Grand Finals. Guys, I hope you've been getting involved in some of the discussion happening on Twitter, hashtag the Grand Finals. You can also vote on who you think is going to win over on the website, www.thegrandfinals.com. Do get involved with the conversation. We'd love to hear from you. I know a lot of us here are getting on Twitter and getting involved ourselves. Now, we've got a game in process at the moment, Team Synergy versus WUSA, but what we're going to do in the meantime is head over and check in with our experts yet again to give us the lay of the land thus far. Clutch, take it away.
Thank you, Uber. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as Uber said, it's currently Team WUSA versus Synergy. Lemming Train took out Synergy, moved on to face Simp. Simp took out Team WUSA 2-1. And we weren't able to see that game because we were on the desk watching the game on the main stage. But can we break down who is Team WUSA? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And what can we expect to see if they do defeat Synergy to go up against Lemming Train?
Well, WUSA is a team that relies on counter pushes. Back in the days, they were a really aggressive team, but they have changed their playstyle quite a bit. So this match, Synergy against WUSA, is a rematch from the World Cyber Games 2013 finals, where WUSA was actually leading the game 2-0. But then Synergy won the match.
I know, I was there. It was crazy. And one of their players that they had on the team was Dr. Tour, who looked like a James Bond villain. He really did. He looked awesome. He's not on the team anymore, I believe, but
only 3 guys are.
Only 3 guys are now, the original roster. Why the changes?
I guess they wanted different players that can train more.
A lot of it is a time commitment that some of these players can bring.
This game is time-consuming. You have to organize it like it's some kind of the work when you play on this level. Definitely.
Oh yeah, it's a second job. Some of these guys, it's their first job that they try to put more time in. But let's talk a little bit more about the preparation for these teams. Now, a lot of these teams have pretty much their dedicated rosters and their dedicated roles for each of their members. And some of these teams are very flexible. And what I mean by roles is you have your players that play the IS-3s, you have your players that play the 5100s, and you have your players that play the Scouts pretty much the whole time. Fnatic is one of the teams that has been changing up those roles, where we've seen Relics in the T1 for the longest time, and then switching it up, putting him to more the damage dealer tanks. If you had the option to have perfectionists, specialists in those tanks, or to have a team that's more flexible in those different roles, which would you choose, Wilkie?
If the player is a carry player, that is by far the best player in the team, I would keep him in the tank. He's the most comfortable to be in. But of course, it's good to have flexibility, because sometimes someone can be sick or something that they cannot train, so you need to have someone to fill him up.
Mm-hmm. That's why we have subs here for some of these teams as
well.
Yeah,
of course.
And it's important to have that option. We would have some of the bench players. I mean, they obviously were all good enough to be on the team, and some of the teams would bring all 10 people on their roster in North America, and they would switch out between the maps because they had a certain strategy for those teammates on what they wanted to accomplish. Mr. Mojo, specialists or jack of all trades on your team?
I'm definitely for specialists, because they can really pinpoint any specific position on all maps. They can know every bush, how it works for their tank, every cover, how to shoot, the velocity of grenade, a million little things that can win victory. So I prefer guys that play 1 to 2 tanks.
It also comes down to how important the maps are per team, per player. And so far, we haven't seen any Himmelsdorf. Could this be that they're not used to the winter-type map, or do a lot of these teams have something saved for later matches they want to use Himmelsdorf for?
Himmelsdorf, well, it's the winter Himmelsdorf, so like Mojo said, there are more pushes than in their normal one, so teams might not be comfortable with the new Himmelsdorf. They haven't tested it out enough to want to play it, so that might be one reason. And of course, other one is that it's a really balanced map. It doesn't really matter are you in the south or in the north. So if the team doesn't feel they are in a better place to play the map than the other team, they might want to pick another map.
Too many variables, they feel, in this scenario.
I'm really surprised that Himmelsdorf got banned so much while they let play Prokhorovka or mines with blind picks, which are much more reliable to get drawed than Himmelsdorf.
Well, Cliff hasn't been played yet either, from what we've seen. And I think the blind picks is a very important topic to bring up. Because of that, some of those maps have a little bit more control with the cover initially compared to Cliff. It's very, very open, especially around the donut side to the one area and then the lighthouse to the other. And over in America, we've seen some teams that have the speed advantage, such as the 1390s, go up to the lighthouse and either be a point guard, which they can pretty much scout where they need to, and also to play very, very defensively and wait for their enemy team to move into a position where that 1390 can start a pincer attack, or it can actually kind of mountain goat its way up and then back down to get those shots. Have you guys seen that in Europe at all? Is that ever really a tactic on Cliff, or does it become kind of an east versus west scenario that we see in so many different maps?
They new meta for Cliff that's lately being played is like push 1-2 line on the lower part and then climb up to that area you said. And from there to try to surprise the spotters, shoot out one fast and then take advantage of the map. And we saw a lot of that, especially in Russian finals. And I'm really interested what will people play now, because they are aware of that. So they know what can happen. So what will they think of now? Because answer to that is very hard. You need to rotate, you need to be aware, you need to be really teamed up with everyone. So it's not an easy battle against that tactics.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, well, we've got to see a little bit of Team Synergy, but we haven't got to see a lot of Team WUSA yet. So let's take a look at who is Team WUSA.
Yes, we trained quite a lot, more than usual, and we also played quite a lot against the teams of the tournament, some of the teams.
We are really proud to represent Germany, because not every European country has a spot in this big event, and we are proud as the only German team to be here.
Do we feel like underdogs? Well, definitely yes, we are the underdogs. We came in with a wild card, and basically we are here to bring you a big surprise.
WUSA to surprise you all!
Representing Germany is Team WUSA, and they have represented some of the best in World of Tanks internationally at the World Cyber Games previously in 2013, and it was a heck of a finals. And it came to that scenario, though, where they could have played defensive on Ensk, and they didn't. And the current Team Dignitas at that time was able to push against them, change the momentum, and then get the victory. So, overconfidence could maybe be a weakness of this team, but I feel that they've made the necessary adjustments, obviously, to be here in the grand finals, and I think they will continue to perform well. But right now, it's going to be, again, on Sand River. We're going to be jumping into the third game as soon as the commentators are ready. Gentlemen, do you think that this is going to be a different scenario because they did not watch what happened between Simp and Lemming Train, or could we see something completely different?
It depends which team is defending. Like I said, WUSA relies on counter pushes, so if they're attacking, I think they have the upper hand, but Dignitas will spread out, that's what they do, so WUSA could do the same thing as Simp, punish for spreading out too much. So.
Mr.
I actually think if WUSA is defending, they will have advantage, because counter push is the greatest tactics of defense. If enemy is attacking, he's usually not all on one spot. Usually you have a spotter somewhere or someone flanking, but if you can mass tanks and strike, and they did that in previous matches, you can win a decisive victory in that moment.
I feel that some teams focus a little bit too much on the rocks and the city scope compared to what we saw from the sand dunes, and that was a huge advantage for Simp because they knew the map. And as Maxi said, they had played that map in tournaments ahead of time. But we can't count out the East, especially for a distraction play from some of these teams. It may be a little bit open to firefighting, but maybe they would sacrifice a little bit of speed by having a T-32 or possibly a Pershing by getting a couple of those long shots to try to keep some of those tanks at bay, to keep them behind cover, to allow more movement to the west. It's a bit of a gamble, though, when you spread your fire.
Yeah, like I said, I think what MacG told me, the speed is key. So I think they will be bringing those 1390s at least to the attacker's side.
Well, we're just waiting for the commentators to get ready here to commentate this game, and we were glad that we can bring you guys a third game between this series, and obviously the winner will move on to face Lemming Train, I believe. We still have other games that are happening, NOA versus Energy Pacemaker, and You Are Dead versus Red Rush Unity happening today. We'll give you guys the updates to those matches so far. I'm really excited to see how the Chinese, Korean, and Southeast Asian teams are going to perform, because we get to see what they bring to the table. The bamboo curtain, as we call it, behind China, we don't get to see a lot of those games.
We already know Arete is really inventive team from Korea. It's Gamers Nation, and I saw them play some really nice tactics. So I'm really interested. Did they prepare something special?
I hope so.
No one thought of.
I hope so. In
They
season,
they have nothing to lose. Like, they're watched it as outsiders, all of them. PvP super friends. They have a Batman. Come on.
I can't wait to highlight Batman if we get to talk about him, because who doesn't like Batman? But when we were looking at South Korea and what they were bringing to the table for World of Tanks at the initial season, the open season, we would joke about the parking lot strategy on Himmelsdorf. Up to the north, they all just park in one place and wait for their opponents to make a move. And it is incredibly passive, probably the most passive play you can make on any map. And you figure, why are they doing this? There is a strategy to it. It's not the most effective strategy, but if you can keep your opponent guessing and you continue to spread out their forces, once you can make a move and you can overmatch one of their tanks and get the kill, you now have the advantage. And then you can move to the south as fast as you can to go for the flag cap. Some of these teams are not going to go for the parking lot strategy, obviously, because it's way too confining. But you still see the same foundation tactic of, let's keep our enemies guessing where we are, send their scouts a little bit too far, overmatch one of those tanks, initially on the hill sometimes down tank alley. We're actually seeing some more teams fight over the fountain area, going through the fountain area in North America, that has led to some very incredible battles and has actually been a bit of a weakness for Fnatic, fighting down that D line, moving from the south and being caught off guard. And I find those corner games on Himmelsdorf are very, very important to understand and to acclimate very, very well. I feel that the European teams, the American teams, and the Russian teams maybe have an advantage compared to some of the Asian teams in that sense, but I'm prepared to be surprised. Really am.
The key will be who can react faster. Himmelsdorf is all about those counter pushes and fast reactions of the team, and also when to abort such action if you're in a dire position. Of course, focus fire doesn't hurt.
No, and missing your shots doesn't hurt as well. But speaking of focus fire, when do you track a tank? Because this has to be a decision made a lot of times individually, where you rather sacrifice the mobility, damage for mobility, or vice versa. When do you make that call?
Some teams like to track with the 50-100 so that they don't lose the alpha damage of IS-3. Some teams probably want to do it with the IS-3, but the situation, it's so situational, and someone has to make the call. Like, if you have a group of tanks, there is the leader, and he's going to make the call. Let's track this guy. But there always needs to be the next shot to track him again, because he will be repairing the tracks immediately once you hit the first shell to the tracks.
On Sand River, though, do you go for the track shots or you go for the damage, especially if you're playing defensive?
It depends. If the tank is in the open, I would go for the tracks. If you're fighting a dogfight in like a pro, then I would go for the damage.
Mr. Mojo?
Yeah, definitely. If you can snipe someone out, you can always have one more friend sniping him, so why not track him?
Well, also comes down to module damage as well, which fortunately our mods are able to show which modules they're loading. And I wanted to bring up binoculars on one of the 5100s, but we had so many other things to talk about in one of the matches. Why bring binoculars instead of vertical stabilizer or something else that's more of a damage output, Mr. Mojo?
You usually carry vertical stabilizer, that's a must. Because while you're driving your 5100, you need your mobility and accuracy. But binoculars give you advantage of plus 25% view. So the way game mechanics works, if you're sitting still for that time and other tanks are moving far away on a map, you have a higher chance to break their camo value and see them earlier with that, giving your team info, shooting from the fade, retreating your tanks, rotating the map. A lot of good things can happen after that. And while doing that, you sacrifice maybe a thing like a gun lay drive or ventilation, something like a reload or a better narrowing of the aim. So view is really important. This game is all about spotting. You win on that.
But would you ever favor coated optics over binoculars?
Depends on a tank and a role.
Okay. So give me an example.
On IS-3, mostly you will carry coated optics because it's a tank that has to move, he has to zigzag, he has to do a lot of moves, so you don't have those 6 seconds usually. if you bring Binos on IS3, it's very specific position for a very specific role on some map. On 5100, I would take Binos every time. It has larger view range than IS3, basically like 390 or 400 meters. Plus that 25% is perfect for him because he needs to shoot from distance. He cannot take punches. He must shoot from far away. And you can use like some tier 1 as an ambush in front of him and him spotting from far of height and shooting.
We're currently waiting for the third game to be underway here in just a couple seconds, ladies and gentlemen. Sand River will be the match. The assault mode, this will be between Team WUSA and Synergy. And the sordid history of all these different teams is quite phenomenal, honestly, over 3 seasons. Team WUSA they're not a wild card. They made it here, and they have that serious aggression that is necessary to kind of counter some of the teams that have been playing passive compared to Sim. Decision-making, though, so low compared to some other ones. I mean, it's still in the mid-tier. Is this because they have so many individual all-stars that maybe their team cohesion suffers because of that?
They're a young team. Their youngest player has 15 years, and he is like their lead star, like LD Nexus. So I guess at some moment they can fail in decisions like a team. But on the other hand, when they choose to push somewhere, they do it like a strong force. All for one for all, and they really go for it.
Like the Musketeers.
Yes.
LD Nexus, 15 years old, and he's been on the team from the start, one of the core members of WUSA. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the game is almost underway. Let's throw it on over to our commentators.
Thank you so much, Clutch. And, well, this is a bit of a surprise, to me especially, I think to all of us, to see the kind of sorry state of affairs for Synergy right now. You know, WUSA, we can kind of say, well, you know, they're a team that aren't most consistently active. They may not be the team that's always, you know, at the top of the scene playing in regular seasons that we see through the WGL EU or any other region for that matter, hence why they came in the position they are. But for Synergy, a team who are top 2 consistently through Europe when they do turn up to the finals, being in this position already, this is a shocking sight to see. Now, obviously, we are into the third map, as we've been told. It will be Sand River coming up in just a moment's time. Obviously, they need to have that team talk. They need to discuss things because I think we just found out how bad this is going for Synergy. Please do let us know because I believe they're going to be on the attacking side.
Yeah, they didn't even do the most amount of damage. Obviously, if you're playing this tiebreaker and assault map, the Sand River, I think you want to be going for that defensive team. Okay, Lemming Train managed to lose to Sim, but
that's a one-off.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of an erroneous result, and I think maybe some bad spotting from Lemming Train's side and some brilliant AMX 3090 play from on the side of Simp. So, yeah, I think, you know, Synergy attacking, I wouldn't think they actually choose that one. I think, again, you know, Synergy just look like down and out at this point. Honestly, against Lemming Train, losing on Ents like they did, they just couldn't get it back. And then Prokhorovka, you know, also losing, they would have lost that game if the time didn't run out. And then just getting thrown down, and then coming against WUSA, 2 draws already, and now we're into the third map, and then we Sand Rivers. Obviously, you know, as I said, defensive is better position. They're attacking, so WUSA looking good to actually move up through this one. But we'll have to wait and see if they can make it. Obviously, the winner of this will be going on to play Lemming Train next.
Because it is quite literally an uphill struggle on the attacking side. There's no two ways about it. You are against the entire odds. So once again, guys at home, I asked you before, make sure you tweet to us using that hashtag #TheGrandFinals with your thoughts towards this matchup. Get your predictions going on the very similar site, obviously, thegrandfinals.com. Head on over there. Get those little votes, literally a thumb right next to the team. Give them a thumbs up if you fancy their chances in this because, you know, we look at the last couple of games, I think we can safely say we've had upsets throughout so far. We can go back to the first game that we had the pleasure of casting. You know, Lemming Train up against Synergy. On paper, that's Synergy's game. There's no two ways to say it. Yes, they've had their ups and downs, but that was always going to be theirs. But, you know, we know what can happen when the Polish crowd are behind teams. They can step up. But in the second game, another upset.
Yeah, I didn't expect, you know, WUSA to do so quite well against Synergy. I didn't expect, you know, Synergy to go down against Lemming Train either. I think, you know, Synergy is obviously a team has gone back and forwards with Lemming Train. I think that loss really demotivated them and really just put them out of this tournament a little bit. And you could see by the reactions on the faces of the players at the end, the argument between Stalker and Arclit, the two main shot callers of Synergy. You can see on their faces that they're bitterly disappointed. They definitely wanted the result there.
Yes.
Getting thrown down to loser bracket. You got to remember, this is the team that came first in Season 1. Okay, they had a no-show at Season 2 at Gamescom, but Season 3 they came second. So it's a team that could easily have replaced the top seed from the European region, which is obviously Virtus Pro, who we'll be seeing tomorrow. So I think Synergy definitely need to...
They're in trouble.
They definitely need to get themselves sorted here. They need to get themselves out of this fluster. They need to make sure they have the real clairvoyance to start getting their normal play back and make sure that WUSA can't break them down like they have been, and Lemming Train did as well. So a massive game for Synergy. We would be incredibly surprised to get knocked out. I mean, this so far has been a tournament of upsets.
It has been, game by game, map by map. Everything has not gone the way it seems, and I don't know what to make of Sand River now. This is almost an impossible one to judge, because we've already seen it once, as a new addition essentially to some of these teams. They don't play it on the regular basis that others do, and it going the way it never goes. It never goes to the attacking team, never. It's a rarity. Maybe 1 out of 100 times you may see that, and of course it happens during today's games. But do not fear, guys. We are almost ready to get underway here, because that's what we all want to see now. It's all tied up. It's all even. Everyone is now on that kind of even playing field. They know what's on the line. There's no second chances now. They've already had their kind of little bit of a glimmer of a hope of having that lower bracket in place to drop down to. There's none of that anymore. Whoever loses this is going home. And that may be Synergy, one of the top teams who've been performing so well. And WUSA, a team who surprised so many through the various leagues that they've been in, all the tournaments they've been in. But we are live into the map, ladies and gents. We are into Sand River, and take me through those tank picks right now.
So yeah, we got a couple of T-32s for the side of WUSA. Then we got the interesting pick there, the Jagdpanther 2, that tier 8 German tank destroyer. Huge amount of damage. I think that's like 490 average damage. And he got a couple of AMX-3090s, a couple of T1s. For the side of Synergy, we've got something more standard. We've got a T-32, a Pershing, and 3 AMX-3090s. Obviously, those 2 T1s are there. Apoel going quite aggressive at the beginning. You can see how the defensive team can kind of get that higher ground, which is so important on this map. But Apoel punished immediately.
Wow, that's a lot of damage to be receiving, and it's almost like Prokhorovka all over again. That is not how you wanted to start this one off at all. So down to 3-2-8. That is a massive bit of damage received. And, well, I don't know what to make of this. We saw they didn't really recover on Prokhorovka after taking such early damage, and I'm not sure if they can again. So, brilliantly unique choice here. And why do you think that this has come out on this map?
That's exactly what it's for. Obviously, WUSA, all the teams knew that this was going to be the tiebreaker map. They knew what tanks they had to take on it. Commandant was in that perfect position. He could land that shell. That was literally his job there, landing that shell. This is the gun that's on the Jagd Tiger, if you don't get the top one. So it's a real brute of a gun. It's pushing up to those tier 9 levels. And you could see how much damage Apoel took immediately. Okay, the MX-3090, he doesn't have the most amount of HP to begin with, only at 1.1k, but still, it's like 50% off, even more if you get a little bit lucky.
So just to point out to you guys, if you do follow one of the regions that doesn't use this mode, the attacking side will be in red, which is Synergy. Defensive side, Team WUSA.
Yep.
Simple as that. And we are actually seeing a lot of movement coming out from Synergy. Maybe not so surprising after watching Ants. They're not just taking their time here. And they can't take their time. If it goes into a draw, the defensive team win. Simple as that. There's no two ways to go about it, and that's how the game mode pretty much works out. So obviously, Apoel taking that initial damage is a huge bit of impact. The rest of those 7 minutes now, every single move counts, and it can really hurt them.
They have to make sure that they make the correct choices now, because as you said, Apoel is very low on HP. He's a one-shot for at least the T-32 and that Jagdpanther there. So you could easily go down in a matter of milliseconds. You can see how Synergy are trying to find their way in this map and really try and get a better angle.
That's a nice little spot he could get there, to be fair.
It's a pretty decent spot, and especially for the Pershing, it's got a good amount of armor on that turret. Yeah, okay, it can get penned on the mantlet, but it's still pretty hard and a little bit lucky if you do so. Paul's going to join him there and try and get some spots out. The MX-3090 maybe has the better view range there. So Commandant trying to land some more damage. He's getting the cross shots on, and this is why the defending team has the better position, because they can just sit on this sand dune, which everyone knows, even on 15 versus 15, is really annoying. Unless you have like a T-92 artillery where you can just splash everyone, obviously that's not possible. And I think, you know, for them, they can just sit up there, they can shoot across, they can make sure they get the angles. For Synergy, they need to find the higher ground. They got the T-32 up there. They need to make sure they get the T1s in the right position. Arclit's got to try and land as many shells as he can. Povl can't waste too many shells in case WUSA does end up going down. You can see Shisha's already moved up into a decent position there. Maybe we have to be a little bit careful because the gun depression on that AMX 3090 is not too good, nor is the gun elevation. But he will be able to spot out, which is a good thing, and I think that's exactly why he's there.
Yeah, so Positive is going walkabouts. He's getting himself towards that circle there, and that's the repercussions towards it. So, excuse me, a bit of an exchange going down. Both tier 1s lost, but they still have at least one tier 1 up, so it's not a huge disadvantage either side, and obviously you get the kind of eyes overall. So we just have to wait on these moves that come out of this, and how can Synergy break this one down now? They have the disadvantage of Apoel being low. They don't have the advantage of positioning. That's the map in a nutshell. But we saw the American team just unraveling Lemming Train on this map. How can Synergy do it to a team like this who seems clearly aware of how to play this one?
Well, they can't do it in the manner they're doing it now. They can't attack from the south. They're just going to get obliterated as they move along the bottom. Yes. They need to rotate back around. They need to come up from the top. They need to make sure that that T1 there up in B3 can get the spots on. LD Nex is obviously going to have to try and deal with that, but if he does get spotted out, they need to find the weakness and push around. Shanish is obviously going to be a key player in that T-32. He's in a good position. Hull down there. Obviously, plenty of armor to deal with anything that comes his way. But yeah, for Synergy, they can't come from the south. They need to move around. You can already see the MX 3090 starting to move around. That's Povl playing that. Maybe the Pershing will stay there just to make sure that he can really react to WUSA if they decide to push, which, to be honest, I don't see why they would. They've only got 5 minutes to hang on before they do take the win and knock Synergy out of this bracket.
Yeah, and I think Synergy know that, and now I'd love to say they're a team that turn up even more when they're under pressure, but at the moment it seems like they're more choking than turning up, and we have seen another couple of spots coming out. Obviously Killerpit is right amongst them. He's a bit of a, well, he could be in trouble, but he's only in the tier 1 again, so not a massive loss, and as we said, you know, the defensive team, it doesn't matter how many tanks you lose, as long as you have one standing at the very end of it, you're pretty much going to be winning this one, and the huge advantage they have there. So he's doing the job anyway, but Povl does edge up, and we know what happened to Positive when you go into this kind of spot, and clearly going to be a little bit cautious here, but Synergy, they do move around. They're not, completely afraid to get involved. Yeah,
and Killerpit, it's done an amazing job, really, because he's exactly what T1 should do. He's providing as much advantage as he can get for his team based on the tank he has. So he's destroyed all the cap, all the cover on the cap, making sure that no one can push in, and then he's retreated so he stays alive, which is going to put Synergy under a lot of pressure. They are going to try and cap, but the thing is, WUSA is in the right position to deal with. They're going to get Commandant into the right position, focusing it so LD Nexus is pushing in, and it's going to be like 3 versus 2. Okay, Synergy might have the higher ground, but with the AMX 3090, they have to commit over that hill to get the gun depression.
Well, I think we're going to find out how well this one goes. Obviously, the cap time being reduced drastically then by other tanks joining in. It's not just Povl there now. 25 seconds left. It has not been reset. This is how they can win it. There's the first shot coming in. That's 125 left here, so it's not easy to cap this. This is as clear as we can make it to you. From every single angle, there is fire coming in, and Stalker somehow staying alive there, but eventually he will go down, so that's both tier 1s lost. That's a lot of the capping potential just removed away from Synergy.
But that was also a brilliant move, because I don't think Synergy actually was ever going to commit to that. They saw the cover, Povl to the right down that ditch, and Arclit towards the left, towards the hill. So they made WUSA come out of their base a little bit so they could push in, they could do the damage, and now WUSA, they're in trouble. Volksschnitzel's down to about 150 HP.
Yeah, they are certainly out of position. Nexus is in a bit of a dangerous spot there, so you're going to back away, and Schnitzel has to do the same. So as you said, the plan worked out to an extent. They've kept the vast majority of their firepower alive. They've once again toyed with the idea of getting that cap underway, so forcing the hand of the opponent. And while there's enough time like this left on the board, why not do it? You're losing nothing as long as you're not taking too much damage. You've obviously got the carcass almost of the dead tank right next to you. He's got a little bit more cover there. He knows where he's going to get shot from essentially. So this is not bad play from Synergy.
This is winning play from Synergy. Armley's starting to get himself into the situation. Commandant not in a great position there. Shanish has got to be a bit careful of the way he extends because of Commandant's position. LD Nexus is low. Volksschnitzel is beyond the one shot. He doesn't get taken out. LD Nexus has got to be careful with about 50% HP. Killerpit, he's really out of the equation by this point, and Seek, he's going to join him, but he's going to be late to the party.
Yeah, Nexus has seemed to arrive first on the scene, with minimal time left on that board. It does get reset again, and this is going to come down to crunch time now. As much as Synergy can toy and pull WUSA out of position, they have to start landing these shots because that cap time is going to be removed drastically now. And we are seeing a couple of kills going back and forth. Nexus gone down, Schnitzel gone down, QQ's received a shell, Siege as well. This is certainly up in the air still, so they've got enough time to play with, as long as they don't get reset too many times here. But look how low they're going. Siege has been caught though, he got tracked and held, but he does manage to get away. So still, very tentative close stuff here.
And Commandant's really got to start pummeling. You know, Applewow's down to a one-shot, Povel could be a one-shot as well, and those two tanks could go down really quickly, and if WUSA can do that, they will get themselves back into the game. But look at this, Synergy still putting the pressure on the cap. Applewell and Povel there, but they're both on reload. Well, Povel's on reload, which is a big deal. Applewell's got 3 shells left there, so he can provide some firepower, but not really enough to do that much. As long as Siege stays safe, they should be alright. And Commandant still in this position, still biding his time with 20 seconds left.
And they've lost another player. This is where they have to turn up. Are we really going to see 2 attacking teams picking this map up? 10 seconds left on the cap. Kilobit has got to get in there. Commandante has to move, as does QQ. Oh, just about reset. We need to keep eyes on that tier 1 because that just did serious work then for the team. We said it was a vital spot earlier on, and they need to get 3 players in to be quick enough on this cap now. So pretty much it's all down to WUSA to pick this one up.
And Sanishi's actually got to get rid of Kilopit. They've ignored him for too long. He's in such a brilliant position. If Sanish dies, it does not matter. He has to get rid of that guy because he's going to continue resetting. Commandant's a bit out of position. He can't get in there. And another reset.
Yeah, but 10 seconds left, 20 on the board overall. Commandante is moving in. The clock is now the biggest factor here. Can Synergy hold on long enough? Can they turtle down and somehow another player will fall for WUSA? Can you believe it, guys? Commandante has to go big now. He's going to have to reset. There's 4 seconds left. This could be going. Oh my god, he doesn't hit the shot. The clock has run down. Synergy, they've done it.
They've absolutely done it.
My God.
Unbelievably spectacular style. I mean, it was like 2 seconds until the end of the game, and they managed to take it out. I mean, I mean, you can't even write that. It doesn't get closer than that.
2 teams.
And
2 teams doing this.
And Commandant, if he had made that last shot, it would have done it. And I kept on saying this. He was not in the right position. He was trying to get the shots out. He was trying to do the damage, but all he had to do was reset. And that is a problem because he had that Jagdpanther, which worked great at the beginning when he could do damage to the Apoel. But it was too slow, it was too cumbersome, it doesn't have a turret, so when it came down to it, it was better to have a T1 than to have him in that position. And you know, massive props to Kilopit for doing so well and actually saving.
His tier 1 work was far superior
on another level.
Phenomenal play, but Synergy literally staying alive by the skin of their teeth. My word, that was close stuff. Like, we don't see this. This map was essentially given to the more aggressive team who does more damage, essentially. Overall, they get the more favorable side. So far, that favorable side has been apparently negated because everyone now knows how to play the attacking side to an absolute T. Where did that come from? That was the Synergy that's dangerous. But we haven't seen them until that moment right then.
It was a tactical play, which is what Synergy's known for. It was 100% tactics. They baited the other team to come in. They made them go into a situation they were unprepared for, and WUSA just didn't know what to do. They didn't expect for Synergy to actually creep out the cap and go back in and go back out. And every time they went back in, WUSA had to push forward to stop the cap, and then they went back out again. So WUSA had to retreat. And over about 5-minute period, slowly but surely, WUSA started to lose HP, and it just got pretty disastrous pretty quick. And tank picks, I don't think it's very well, but you know, it was a close game. And WUSA, you know, taking Synergy that far is pretty impressive. But hopefully that's going to bring Synergy back into this tournament, get their confidence up again. You know, it's so hard to go in a tournament when you're drawing and you're losing games because you're like, what are we doing wrong? We're playing our normal style and we're not winning. What's going on?
Exactly. But the biggest proving factor now is their next matchup is going to be almost a repeat. They're going to be facing Lemming Train again to find out of those 2 teams who will be going home. But guys, before we get to that, we need to throw back to the analysis desk because I want to hear what Sealed Mojo has to say about that bit of play from Synergy. So guys, let's pass back over there to find out exactly how that went down.
Thank you, Pansy. Gentlemen, attacker wins once again on Sand River. Commandante not landing the shot. You were going a little bit crazy on the desk. What happened?
I think he actually blind shotted or something. I really don't know what happened. I expected at least for him to drive and for the guys from behind to shoot or connect. Seconds were deciding. I really want to ask him what happened. Did he even see the tanks and he missed? Did his handshake, or he was just, they must be somewhere there. I can't see them, so let's go.
Yeah,
Well, WUSA's out though. Go ahead.
yeah, that looked a little weird. Why didn't he just drive to the capturing and proxy spot them and then shoot? It was really
Could have
weird.
been nerves, could have been all
Yeah.
sorts of things. But
Yeah.
we have Blue Boys captain joining us from Simp. They had a victory on Sand River, aggressive victory. Let's talk about that first. Wow. I mean, MacG talked about how you guys were familiar with the map. You had used the southwest corner before. What happened from the beginning, the onset, and then going over that sand dune?
So from the beginning of Sand River, we just have a simple setup to find their tanks, to know where to go, to where to push. So we start with the 90s in the mid, because that's the key spot for the attackers. Get the mid. If you don't have the mid, you lose immediately. So we knew that. We didn't really spot them. So but at one point they had 90 up in the east. So we were like, all right, they must be east side of the map. So, and then we spotted 2 pushing off the west. And we was like, all right, that's a weird split, but maybe they can get that 1390 out somehow. So we tried to force the 90 out. And as soon as we did that, we see they're pushing also there with that 90. So we're like, all right, they're doing a 2-2 split. What is this? It just seemed like a weird split for your tanks, because you have 2 slow tanks one side, 1 slow tank the other side, and
Yeah,
190.
we were all
we had
wondering,
split.
were you aware of they're being spread out all over the map, or was that just a fluke decision to go for it?
You mean push the 1-2?
Yeah, because
No, that was the decision, because the Persian on the east, useless if we got to the 1-2. It was completely useless. And it turned out they also had a 90 in the east, so it was a 4-on-3.
Yeah.
And we just ran over that hill, and we were extremely surprised that we got there unspotted. That was the key point of that.
how many of
battle.
you did get unspotted? We know that one guy got spotted, but rest?
The 69, that was it.
Just him?
Just the 69.
Wow.
Wow.
Advantage of Simp on that side then.
Yeah. So what we did was our 69 player Drox is amazing, baited out shots, then they fired and they were pushing, so they backed up so they didn't want to get return fired. Pushed in immediately.
That's the point that we saw too. The observers were following the Pershing. We saw the hold down position in the sand dune. He fires. He sees 1 tank, and then we see the train of pain coming from Simp coming around the sand dunes, and it was beautiful. Honestly,
Yeah,
it
it was
was
pain
when you
train.
went right over, and got the overmatch. And from there, it started to pretty much change the pace of what was happening. And this is a question that we're kind of asking ourselves now, even after this win with Synergy against WUSA. Is this the attacker's advantage because of the flag cap?
We
later in the game?
believe it is the attacker's advantage, to be honest.
So if you had the choice, if you were to face Sand River once again, you would choose attack over defend.
I believe we would.
Okay. Well, I think MacG maybe would agree with you, or maybe he's like, hey, don't tell anybody that. But I find it very, very fascinating, especially with this type of assault mode being used in the Global Grand
I would
Finals.
say it's already out of the box. 2 of 2. That's not a fluke anymore.
No. I mean, at first, it's a coincidence. Second, it's a pattern. Third, it's a
If it
factor,
happens,
however that works.
that's a fact.
Let's talk about mines. Mr. Mojo's going to argue that you guys had the advantage throughout the entire match because of your tanks, but you held back. You waited. What happened? What was going through your guys' calls to make the call to stay back and not progress?
We didn't know how many 90s they had in the hill. That was probably the key factor to not pushing it in right at the start. So we spotted 190 about 3 minutes in, I guess, and we don't know where the other 2. So we can't really aggressively take the island to see how many tanks they have there, and we can't aggressively push the mid. We have to kind of find where they were, and we were having troubles with that, trying to find where their tanks were.
And this is what you guys were talking about in Season 3, in the interview that we had, where you guys pretty much put your stake in the ground and said, we're not going to push up into a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. Why do that? Why throw that money away if we know we can't win in that battle scenario? And a lot of people will keep arguing. It's like, well, then you have to come up with something else. And we saw passive play coming from you guys. No one can argue that it didn't work. Obviously, you got the win. But Prohorovka is a little bit of a different story. You favor the West. You did a great job hiding in the bush. But what fell apart on Prohorovka?
We were in bad spots. I kind of wanted to go to where their 1390 ran out at us and then went to that rock. I kind of wanted to be at that rock instead of where I was when they started their push. And we really didn't have very much experience being in spots around that area. So we had to improvise, and we decided to stay where we like to be on the 1, 2, 3. And it really turned out poorly. Luckily, we got some favorable spotting and decisions, I guess. I wouldn't say poorly on their part, but unexpected positioning from our tanks in bushes.
Was it just an accident in the end that you sent the 1390 to the other side and the 416 to the other? Or did it just happen? It looks like it was intentional that the 1390 will draw the attention of the
To us, it looked like a sacrifice for a draw.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, if I was anywhere else, I would have died 30 seconds ago. So I just picked here. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to live longer at this spot. I'm going to sit there.
And the pancake profile paid off.
Especially with Crimson Corsair. What was comms like when you were telling him to just hide and to turn his tank away to not get spotted? Because the tension was pretty high. If he had gone down...
The tension for us was gone. We had no tension because we were like, we lost. It's over.
Really?
Yeah. We thought we lost.
Draw.
100% loss.
Wow.
And when it went to a draw, we just laughed it off. We were just like, all right, one more chance, guys. We got lucky. One more chance.
Well, you have the possibility of facing Synergy or Lemming Train, I believe, because that'll be the next matchup that we're going to have throughout the bracket. Which one would you rather choose to face?
That's a tough one. Probably Synergy.
Synergy? Okay.
You wanted to face the Russians, so...
A couple of people asked me this question earlier, and one of them said it would be a better story if you fought Synergy, because then you would have played all three, and you would have gotten out of the group of death unscathed if you had won, fighting every single team there, and nobody could say otherwise.
It's a phenomenal story, but you as a player, you're just going to have to take the cards that are dealt to you. You can't overthink things, which does happen to some teams. They try to over-strategize. And that's definitely a spot you don't want to be in. But congratulations on the 2 wins so far. You guys are looking fantastic, representing the American region. Americans are staying up late to watch you guys, and I'm sure communicating on Twitter at Simp Gaming to send their support. Blue Boys captain, anything else while we have you on the desk that you'd like to say?
I would like to say hi to my mom, who's staying up really late watching me play. And that I love you. I love my sister, who's probably also watching. And I hope you guys have a great birthday this weekend.
Oh, well, happy birthday to them. Blue Boys captain, thanks for joining us. We're going to see if we can keep you for the next match, but I know you got to prepare to find out who the winner's going to be. And we're excited to find out who is going to be the winner of the next match. Synergy versus Lemming Train. Stay tuned, folks. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the Wargaming.net League Global Grand Finals continues after this.